Chapter 34, Day 3. My phone rang, but I didn't move. Wasn't so much that I didn't want to move, though I really didn't, but I couldn't move. I couldn't move because my mind held so many questions. Too many whys. My eyes looked up as the midnight sky changed its color to the blue and white signs of reality. The only sign of existence that he's real and that he is our God. He got what he wanted. All right, he's playing a god. A cruel and evil god. Players' rankings. The rules of the game are simple. Survive. Rankings. 1. The brain. Logged out. 2. The killer. 3. The engineer. 4. The bomber. 5. The photographer. 6. The gamer. 7. The fighter. 8. The spy. 9. The gymnast. 10. The medic. 11. The map. The taunt of the player board is the worst of all. To remind everyone that no matter how long you've been here, no matter how prepared you are, no matter how much you know, we'll all have logged out written by our names one day. It's just a matter of time. The black phone rang once more as the screen lit up against my stained face. I read with a deep hatred of this world and its creator, but mostly for me. Congratulations. You've completed our contract. You now have 98 hours remaining. Time flies when you're playing God, doesn't it? How indeed. In 48 hours, I've lost 2 friends and had the other 10 stolen by the text messages used to try and save them. When I first arrived, 16 players walked this wasteland. Now only 10 remain. This world is twisted and sick. A hand touched my shoulder in a calming way. I looked up to be met with a face that I couldn't recognize, but yet I somehow knew. 18. He stood in orange with dark skin against his tired expression. Bandages covered his arms in random places, as dried red stained the snowy appearance. I know him, but I can't put my finger on it. I'm sorry for your loss, he whispered calmly. Remind me of your name again? I asked, as the question pressed against my mind. It's Dan, you idiot. Are you still pretending not to know me after I saved your life? He spat as his personality changed. Idiot. I explained he really doesn't know, Alice growled, hitting the boy in the back of the head with a rolled-up paper. Alice, how do I know him? I asked shamefully. He tried to kill you once when we were looking for clues, she barked, rolling her eyes. I don't know who she's more annoyed with, him or me, but I know that she is hurting. Dan told her as soon as we came back to the remains of the house what had happened. I'm not entirely sure what happened afterwards because I fell asleep. I just wanted to forget this world, and sleep was the best way. Or that's what I had thought. My memories came back. So did my dreams, or rather my nightmares. The reason I'm even awake now is that Alice woke me, claiming that I had been sweating and thrashing around in my sleep. I guess she really does care for me after all. I snapped from thought, realizing that I hadn't replied and was just staring off into space. Oh, sorry. Why'd you help me if you were trying to kill me? I questioned. You saved my life once. This is just payback. Besides, Ian is insane. I figured it was time to move on to the next nut job. He smiled, with a gentle laugh. It's not like we have anywhere to go from here, I huffed. You'll think of something, Blank. You always do, Alice reassured. Why are you calling me that? I'm not the Blank anymore? Sentimental reasons, she argued. I guess there's no point in arguing it. It's not like I ever was a Blank. So, what do you got? Alice questioned. Nothing. I have no idea of where to go from here. I mean, if clues look like something out of place, I would guess we should look for something that looks off. I mean, games are normally set up with certain numbers of clues in one area, but that would only help us if we knew all the clues that were found, and where they were. By finding clues, we also need to find the person who doesn't have their memories back, which we also don't know. There are too many variables. If we had a starting point, this would be a lot easier, I concluded. I know the thought is half-baked, but I can't think. I can't even begin to clear my mind of all the emotions that are running through my thoughts. I'm gonna snap soon if I haven't already. What about that? Dan asked, pointing to the key that hung around my neck. Oh, I just woke up with that. I'm not entirely sure what it is or what it goes to, I stated weakly, staring at the shining metal. I'm so tired. I just want to lay down and sleep forever, never waking to the crazy of this world. An idea popped into my head. It may not work, but then again it may. I stood from the rubble, standing high, looking up at the sky with a wide and crazy smile. I ignored the questions and comments of Dan and Alice. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if all of you are fully aware, but 3 days ago, I, the gamer, escaped from the game and discovered your city, in which I was returned to my place. I overheard many calling me their favorite character. Well, am I? If not me, who? Have you enjoyed the show so far? Would you like to make it a bit more interesting? Why not walk up the hill and tell the game maker himself? I am your humble servant. Use me as you wish. But I warn you, I don't have too much longer. Let's make my lasting time a little more interesting, shall we? I call to you all. Give me my hint. I laughed, up at the sky. I did kill player 1, didn't I? So where's my clue, Mr. Cell Phone Killer? Did you forget my prize? I choked on my words as fear set in. I'm gonna die here, and I couldn't save a damn person. What the hell are you doing? Alice barked, pulling down my shoulder and causing me to fall against the ground. I told you, they're watching us, and if I give them what they want, then they could help us in return. The way I see it, all of them are the killer, so majority rules, right? I explained. So you really are working with the game maker, Dan concluded. Not by choice, I said. But if it helps us survive, then what's the harm? You're relying on their help instead of doing it yourself. My phone rang, as it seems my message got through after all. I didn't think the people would get to him that soon. I opened the lock screen, reading the message set before me. You want your hint? Fine. But remember, you're only getting this because you killed the brain. If a real-world item is not in the hands of their owner, it'll begin to cry. A riddle? Wait, is this really our new hint? What does it say? Dan asked. If we lost a real-world item, then it will cry, I restated with confusion. That doesn't make any sense, Alice said. I wonder if she does that on purpose. I looked down at the ground, in thought. The game never gives you a puzzle that the player can't solve with the resources they have. So, what do we have? Alice is the engineer, and Dan is the hunter. Dan is a new addition to this team, right? The killer waited to give a clue until he was a part of the team, meaning that his skills as the hunter are needed. The game maker seemed pretty confident that Alice and I couldn't find it on our own. Then again, he could have thought that Hal and Eve would be working with us. Is he changing the game as we make progress? That has to be it. Each of the trials require the skills of at least one member. The game is changing, I concluded. What? Alice asked. The game is always changing. It's the only way that the game maker can keep up with both the new players and the game overs. The game requires individuals to find clues, while it takes teams to use them to find the next. One clue matches with one player, so I guess one of our memories. That might be why we never found anything for me after Eve got back her memories. I was the only person in our group to not have their memories, but I got mine back through a hit to the head, something that the game maker could have never accounted for. He had to change the game, and that's when I came back. This whole world can change on a dime, but that means there are shortcuts within it. I was taken out of the game. That means that the clue that I had been connected to could either be useless or could have been an ending clue. Rather, if we find the clue connected to me, either we will end this game or it'll be a complete waste of time, I explained. I missed your stupid plans, Alice laughed. Okay, so what do we do? All eyes were locked on me. Why are you asking me? That's what you do with a leader, dumbass, Alice smirked. I'm the leader? Who else? And besides, you never listen to anyone anyway. But that's what makes you you, she added. I looked at Dan, who agreed with Alice. Well, let's start with what you said, Dan, I said, lifting up the key hanging around my neck. The only place I know that has a lock is the bank. Then the bank it is. But Dan, don't try killing him or I'll kill you. Got it? Alice snapped. You got lucky last time, Dan huffed, protecting his ego. I grew up on a military base. I know more ways to kill a person than letters in the alphabet, she argued, walking away. I don't believe a word from you, Dan joked, following the girl with me by his side. A is for arsenic, Alice sighed. I'll admit, this is comical. It's almost like it's Eve and not Dan, arguing with Alice about nonsense. I walked with no control of my own. I just stopped. Everything just stopped. What's that smell? Kind of smells like rotten eggs and icing. A wet spot formed on the front of my shirt, but I couldn't look at it. Am I drooling? Mouth closed. Close. Why isn't my body listening to me? John, are you okay? Alice asked, turning towards me. At this point, Dan and Alice were several feet in front of me, seeing as it had taken them a moment to notice. I wanted to answer, but no words formed. No sound escaped my lips except for a small grunt. A wave of shock filled my body, and everything went black, but only for a moment. It was much like blinking. But when I opened my eyes, I was no longer standing. Rather, I lay on the ground, with Dan and Alice leaning over me. I was on my right side, with a path of drool that fell from my lips, traveling down across the pavement. I looked up at the two, who seemed as confused as I was. A sudden feeling of sleepiness overtook me. I guess the lack of sleep has really taken its toll. Wait, how'd I end up on the ground? The last time I remember we were walking to the bank. What's going on? John, has this ever happened to you before? Dan asked calmly. I shook my head no in a slow, painful manner. Man, my muscles are sore. It's like I just got the crap beaten out of me. What happened? How did I end up on the ground? I slurred, and spit out built-up saliva. You had a seizure, Dan answered. A seizure? Never had a seizure before. I mean, I think my aunt had one once, but I never have. What? Do you know anything that might have caused that to happen? Like something you did, or something in your family history? Alice pressed for answers. She kind of sounded like a doctor. I thought back, unable to look into my jumbled memory. I didn't get a headache or remember anything. Perhaps when you hit your head, when you got back parts of your memories, has something to do with this? Alice thought aloud. No, your body reset when you rejoined. I thought for a moment. When I was awake in the real world, I still had a headache, and I almost passed out when I walked to the town, I added. John, how were you taken? She asked. I was hit with a crowbar, I said, pointing to my head. Wow, that's a step up from most, Dan joked. Well, I turned around before he got me from behind, so I ran through my house trying to get away. I tripped and... Oh, I remember! I cheered, as the memory that had escaped me returned. I remember! I remember! I remember! I chanted with a crazed laugh. I sat up. I remember! Remember! I remember! Look, you might have taken a hard hit to the head and gone several months without treatment. I'm not sure if you're in the right state of mind, Alice said, attempting to calm me down. But Alice, I remember who the cell phone killer is, I smiled widely. What? Dan and Alice asked simultaneously. Who? How? What? The questions flew. I saw his face, but I don't exactly remember it. Every time I look back, it's blurry. I think it was too dark to get a clear look. But when the flash! I cut myself off. I took a picture of his face. I took a picture and it was on my cell phone. I remember a white flash and thinking to myself that if I was going to die, I could at least let the police know who he was. I took a picture of his face. I laughed. Our expressions were bright and looked as if they belonged to drunken clowns instead of kidnapped victims. That explains why I didn't have my cell phone when I showed up. My cell phone is a clue, I concluded. We have a chance. We actually have a chance now. The only question is, where can we find it? I looked down at the key that hung around my neck. It wouldn't be that easy. All games work in threes. This is just part one.